Yoga Baron here. This video is 5 Yoga Studio design tips. I want to start the video by saying that Yoga Studio design is somewhat important. It helps contribute to the overall yoga experience of your students. It's something you want to pay attention to. You want to create the nicest space you can that fits with your budget and it fits with the type of clientele and that works with your existing infrastructure. You overall want a type of design that really generates the mood that you want to generate. The other point I want to make is you do not want to put yourself in financial difficulty to redesign or design your studio. Yoga Studio design, the best design is not going to make a studio a success. What makes a studio a success is you, the teachers. The teaching is really the ultimate dictator of whether a yoga studio class is excellent, but design contributes to it, and so it's at least worth discussing. First tip involves maximizing your yoga space. This is fairly common sense. First off, you want your walls to be bare, at least the side and the rear walls, and this is so students can go and do inversions and use them for assistance. I know it's tempting to put artwork on there, perhaps mirrors, but avoid that. If you want to use mirrors, consider putting mirrors on the front wall. They can be helpful, they can help students see what they're doing. That's certainly not necessary, and if you have to choose among other design elements, I'd probably put mirrors on the back burner at this point, and if at all, whether you need them. The other thing is floor space. Keep it as clean and as bare as you possibly can and maximize the amount of space that your students have for doing yoga. Flooring. 2 points. Avoid carpeting if you can. Hardwood is best. Carpeting, yes, it's soft, it muffles sound, but it's really hard to keep clean. Even if you clean it every day, it's just not going to be that clean in people's faces if they're close to it. If you have carpeting and the budget is limited, don't run out and tear it out and throw in hardwood and put yourself at financial risk. But if down the road you're making improvements, you might consider replacing carpeting with hardwood. That's just my opinion. Again, you might ask your students what they prefer. Perhaps some of them don't particularly care that it might be not as clean as hardwood can be. So, always listen to what your students want before you listen to me. Second is, I like hardwood, and a lot of studios use hardwood because it's easy to keep clean, it's softer than concrete and laminate, and it just has a nice natural feel and look to it. If you can and your space provides, put together a little reception, closed-off reception space for them. It's where you can do payment processing and have a little waiting area, as well as a space for coats, shoes, and bags. This is ideal. It makes for a much smoother flow in between classes. The students coming can sit and wait. Students leaving can perhaps chat and whatever else, rather than one large space. If people come in, it disrupts the class and so forth. So I think a closed-off reception area is really important for a yoga studio. Again, if you just have a large space and that's working for you, that's fine. It can be expensive building a separate room, but if you're looking at space and one doesn't have reception and one does, that maybe could be the tipping point to making a choice of one over the other. Color, this is probably what you think of first when you think of yoga studio design. There are pretty much an unlimited number of color schemes you could go with, and there isn't one magic color scheme that's right for a yoga studio. And in fact, over the course of years, you may change the color scheme of your own studio. What you want to do is you want to apply a couple of guidelines in terms of coming up with a color scheme. One is you want it to fit with your yoga style. Is your yoga studio one that has a lot of gentle, tranquil, serene, meditative type classes? You want to go with a color scheme that works with that gives off a mood of tranquility and serenity. If you have more of a rigorous fitness, energizing type yoga style that you teach, you might go with a color scheme that's more energizing. You also want it to appeal to your clientele. Obviously it's not going to dictate, and everybody has their own preferences, and you're never going to please everybody with your color scheme, but you want to keep them in mind. Works with infrastructure is important. Infrastructure being architectural design. You want the color scheme you go with to work with the actual elements of the inside space. I'm talking about the walls. Is it drywall? Is it brick? Do you have lots of glass? Do you have lots of wood? Do you have concrete on the walls? This sort of thing. You want the color scheme to work with the elements you already have there. And finally, the most important point, go and research interior design if you're coming up with a new color scheme. You don't have to look at only other yoga studio color schemes. You could look at any type of room, really, living rooms, office spaces. What you want to do is you want to find examples of space that is similar to yours in terms of the architectural design elements, and then look for color schemes that really resonate with you, that's going to fit with your yoga style, and that creates a really nice space. And that's how you're going to do it, by researching in interior design magazines and interior design websites. That's going to really help you come up with a color scheme that's going to work for you. Fortunately, color schemes not all that expensive to change. It is paint, yeah, it does cost money, but if it just doesn't quite work for you, you just put up a couple of coats of paint. For ceiling, there are 3 elements to consider: height, material, lighting. Height, you want it to be high enough so it's not a cramped looking space, and you want it high enough so that people, especially taller people, can raise and extend their arms and hands straight above their head. Material, if you can get a vaulted or crown molding or a ceiling that is appealing, that is excellent. After all, your students are going to look at your ceiling. They look up, they're lying on the floor. The ceiling is part of the room for sure. If you can avoid the drop-down fluorescent lighting, tiled ceilings, that's the best. You can go with something a little bit more appealing. Again, changing a ceiling can be an expensive project, so don't put yourself at financial risk just to change your ceiling. And lighting, I don't really care for fluorescent lighting. I think track lighting and pot lighting is much better, especially lighting that you can adjust. The brightness is ideal because you can really change the mood of a class just by adjusting the lighting, and that's a nice feature to be able to have in your yoga studio. I'll wrap up with, design is something to pay attention to, but it's not the element that's going to make your studio a success. You and your teaching is going to be the primary determinant of whether you are going to be successful. Yes, you're going to have to do marketing. Yes, there's design. Yes, you're going to have to be running a business, but teaching is most important. However, if you'd like to learn more about yoga studio design, on yogabaron.com, my website, put together a 23-page free design guide. Just go there, you'll find it on the right side, and you can get that design guide and hopefully get some more ideas about creating an excellent space for your yoga studio students.